So, we're still in Cambridge, where we left off last time. We'll look for some work and see where it takes us. See what TNT have got. Anything interesting? If we go to Grimsby, it's an option. Felixstowe seems a little bit close. Don't fancy going back to Birmingham. Let's take a look up the road. See if anything at Carrefour piques our interest. Not sure why there's a Carrefour in Cambridge. For honest, again, that's another quirk of the Really Real Companies mod, which seems to be focused primarily around French companies. Dover. Not been there. Let's take that one. Nothing wrong, of course, with the mod being focused more on French companies, but it does mean that sometimes they can feel a little out of place. Carrefour, Auchan, they don't operate in the UK, certainly. I don't know if they operate outside of France at all. Honestly, no idea. But still, it's an improvement over the vanilla companies. So I haven't really been able to get the issue with the wheel fixed. It's the centering spring, I think, doesn't really, well, it doesn't kick in at all at lower speeds, in lower gears. Once we get the speed up, it's not so much of a problem. If anything, it's a little bit too strong, resistant at higher speeds. The balance simply isn't there. I was using the Logitech gaming software for a couple of years, had no issues with it, but I recently got a new piece of equipment which won't work with Logitech gaming software. It needs the G Hub, and the G Hub cannot be installed if the gaming software is installed. So I had to uninstall Logitech gaming software, install the G Hub, import the profiles from the gaming software to G Hub, and thus began the problems. The mouse, fine. I have a Logitech G900 mouse, and that is no problems with that at all. Absolutely fine. The G29 wheel, on the other hand, everything works except the centering spring, and there seems to be nothing I can do to fix it. I can make it firmer, I can make it stiffer. That's not a problem, but it still doesn't kick in at the lower speeds. It still doesn't have the balance that it had before. It's either too weak at low speeds or it's too strong at high speeds. There's no way around that. The G Hub seems to have fewer settings options as well than the gaming software did. So I can't say I'm particularly impressed with that. We'll wait and see what Logitech's support have to suggest on the matter. Hopefully they'll be a bit more helpful than Corsair support have been with my keyboard issues. Fortunately, those have just been to do with the LED lights on the keys, not actually any functional issues as I'm having with the G29. But we shall see. I expect responses are likely to be quite slow at this time of year. Maybe once we get into the new year, I'll hear something from them. And they may have an idea. It may be a very simple fix. Or there may be nothing that can be done for it. If that's the case, I certainly wouldn't be very happy. Still, gives me an excuse to diversify a little. Might try another game or two. I'm not going to give up Euro Truck by any stretch. This series will continue. Albeit maybe not once a day. I don't think releasing an episode every day was ever intended to be the long-term pace. Now, nice Mr. Policeman was blocking off that particular exit the way we wanted to go. So, presumably this is the M25. I didn't actually notice any signs, but presumably this is the M25, so we'll just loop all the way around. Do things that way. Or maybe it will take us through London. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like we're going to turn off and go through London and get to Dover that way. Which I'm not entirely familiar with the routes in and around London, but I can't imagine that going through London would actually be quicker in real life than going around it would. Shorter route certainly, but the traffic, an issue. Oof, that's some awful pop in there. The way those buildings just appeared very suddenly. Not ideal. I have scaling set to 400%. I have the graphic settings generally, mostly I believe at the highest possible settings. It's just an old game, really. It has been upgraded from DX9, I believe, to DX11 within the last few months. So graphical performance should see an improvement from that, but I have to be honest, I've seen much more evidence of that improvement in ATS than I have in ATS2. I don't know if maybe the optimization of these areas that were in the base game is perhaps lagging behind. Because as much as I say I've seen the improvement more in ATS, that's not to say I haven't seen an improvement in this game as well. Italy is very impressive in terms of how it looks, I think. Wow. It'd be nice if he didn't just brake check me there. So Italy is very visually impressive. From what I've seen, sort of screenshots wise, the areas in the Black Sea DLC, so Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, they look quite good as well. But as I said in a previous episode, I haven't actually got around to going to that part of the map yet myself. I think that's gonna have to be very high on the to-do list for this series. Got Iberia on the horizon. I would expect we'll see that by Easter, sometime in March or April, but that's just my best guess. It'd be quite embarrassing if I got to Spain before I got to Romania, Bulgaria or Istanbul. The quality of DLCs though in these games is improving all the time. The Going East expansion, when that came out, I remember it. It was a definite improvement over the base game areas, but it was not a huge improvement. By the time we got to France, the Baltic, more recently Italy, it's a huge difference. It really is. Italy in this game, and Russia, Lithuania, so on. France, much more impressive, more well done in this game than the UK, the Netherlands, Germany. But that's okay, because we can understand as an audience that this game has really surpassed all expectations that anybody had of it. I think at the time it was made, expectations were that it would serve as a very niche game, and it would appeal to hardcore truck enthusiasts, as is typically the case with these sorts of simulators. And I think the company was quite small, and there wasn't, or didn't seem very much point in trying to overextend themselves, trying to allocate more resources than they really had into creating anything too amazing. The way it's taken off really becomes something of a sensation, if we're honest. It's allowed the developer to expand. It's allowed them to release expansions they probably never had any intention or expectation of releasing. It's allowed them to release an entire new game that they probably never had any expectation of releasing, or if they did, probably expected to release it much further down the line and with a much narrower scope. So it is really testament to a couple of things. Firstly, that you can't really truly reliably predict what will and won't succeed. Because I think the vision of success that the developers probably had for this game at the time it was released is very, very different than the vision of success for many games, and certainly blown away by the level of successes actually achieved. And I think the other thing that it's perhaps testament to is that a good developer can be flexible, and when they see their product perform very differently than they expected, change their business model, I suppose, at least their practices, their priorities, their roadmap, to accommodate that. Now, usually, unfortunately, we are used to seeing that working the other way, where a game that has huge amounts of investment in production budget, in marketing budget, a game that's super hyped up and expected to be an absolute blockbuster sort of flops. We see that sort of change of game plan from developers then, in the form of cancelled DLCs, closing down and merging servers if it's an online game, quickly moving on to a very different sort of project. Fortunately, in this instance, we've seen it work the opposite way to usual. See Dover Castle in the background there, very impressive. And in this instance, we've seen a game that wasn't expected to do nearly so well as it has continue to be supported probably long after it otherwise would have been. Continue to receive expansions, continue to see the development team increase in size and in ability. I think there's a lot of people on that development team have probably picked up a lot of skills along the way. Although also very likely their morale is buoyed by their success. Money coming in probably doesn't hurt either. You know, we've seen a transformation, really. What an unexpected success can do to transform a game, well, a whole IP, really, a studio, development studio, and even, I would go so far as to say, the wider gaming audience's attitudes towards a particular genre. So I'd say that's changed. Not solely due to this game, but in large part, you know, it's certainly had an impact. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, playing and enjoying Truck Simulator who never would have expected to do so. So there's some food for thought. That if we just try things once in a while, you never know what you might end up enjoying. I certainly never expected to put even 1% of the time into this game that I have. It's been a very, very unexpected journey for me, and I don't doubt for many, many others. And it is very nice to see a developer that has taken that success and sort of handled it in the way that SCS have. You know, it hasn't become a cash grab. It hasn't become, you know, they haven't got any sense of inflated ego from it. They've taken what they've got, they've built on it, they've improved it, they've expanded it. They've done everything right at every turn, except for releasing ATS in a rather unimpressive scale. But even that, they understood where they'd gone wrong and quickly rectified it. I'm not sure why I'm struggling with this particular parking job. It's not a difficult one. There we go. Got there in the end. So that's another delivery successfully completed. Thank you very much for joining me for this journey. If you've liked what you've seen, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully join me for the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.